Um, Here's another math lesson with Miss Donahue. Here we are working on patterns with fractions. It's a word problem. It's in the Go Math book. I believe it's page 276, problem number 19. So the first thing I always want to recommend is students to have a nice designated math notebook, whether it's in your spiral notebook, and then always put your name. In this case, it's Miss D. Today's date is January 29th, 2021. And always put the page number. And the reason why we want to do that is we want to be able to reference this when we have to study before a test or reviewing after a lesson. And taking good notes is a very key trait to have to achieving in school. The next step is to read the problem carefully. And this problem actually is something that when they put this star here, is like a test prep. Zach watered his garden with 1/3 gallons of water the first week he planted it. He watered it with 1/3 or 3/4 gallons the second week and 2 1/8 gallon the third week. If he continued watering in this pattern, how much water did he use on the 5th week? And I always have my students highlight key words such as first week 1/3, second week 1/3, third week 2 1/8, and then what is it that they want us to do? They want us to figure out how much water did Zach use the 5th week. And this is a key, these are key words that's telling us that it's not just the 4th week, it's not the next week after the 3rd, but it is the 5th week. Sometimes students just think that, okay, I figure out the next one, which is the 4th, and they overlook the fact that they don't want the 4th, they want the 5th. Okay, I always recommend reading the problems or any questions on multiple choice tests or any comprehension tests and subjects. Read it more than 2 times. The first time your brain is just getting warmed up into it, and as you read it, it gets clearer and your cognitive process is able to process what is it that you're supposed to do. So now the next step I do is, after highlighting, is I transfer this. So again, allowing my brain to analyze what it's asking me to do, and evaluating and transferring it over here into my notes. So the first, it's gonna write first, but let me just make it easy. First week. The first week he did 1 3/8. The second week he did 1 3/4. And the third week he did 2 1/8. Now we have to figure the 5th, so I'm just going to put down my 4th and 5th week so I don't forget. To solve this problem, we have to understand and know and figure out what is the rule or the pattern of the fractions, the value of it. The next thing we do is looking at the whole numbers here in the fractions. So the fractions, the mixed fractions here, we notice that if you look just at the whole number, 1, 1, and 2, the value of these fractions are actually going up and not down. So if you want to think it as like money, $1 and some change, $1 and some change, and $2 and some change, you know that the value is going up. Therefore, the rule is to add. But add what? What is the value in between? What's the pattern? So we first figure out the rule is to add, but the pattern we're still trying to figure out. To find the pattern, we need to figure out what the difference is in between the two fractions. Now, you could either, to find the differences to subtract, either you subtract these two fractions or you subtract these two fractions, but you never subtract this and this. It's the two fractions that are closest to each other. I'm going to use these two fractions because I'm just looking at lower numbers will be easier for me to subtract. So I'm going to find the pattern here by doing 1 3/8 minus 1 3/4. Again, I'm looking for the difference between the value. Difference means to subtract. Now I can't just subtract 3 minus 3 because the denominators are not the same. When they're not common, I have to figure out what the least common denominator is. And there's two ways you can do it. If you're really good with division, you can just look at these two numbers. Actually, I realize when I'm subtracting, I have to put the greater fraction on the top. My mistake, I apologize. We know that the values are going up, and when the numerators are the same, the denominators, that is the lesser one, is going to be the greater. So 1 3/4 is greater than 1 3/8. Now we have to figure out what the common denominator is in order for us to actually do the operation of subtraction. So there's two ways to do it. Either you can look at these two and say, okay, can 8 be divided into 4 evenly without a remainder? In this case, we know yes, because 8 divided by 4 is 2. And therefore, the greater of the two numbers will be your common denominator. And that's the fastest way to figuring out what the common denominator is. The other way is to figure out what the least common multiple. And to do the least common multiple, we would take the multiples of 4 and the multiples of 8. 4 times 1 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, 4 times 3 is 12, and 4 times 4 is 16. And here, 8 times 1 is 8. I'm going to stop because I see a common multiple. They both have 8, and therefore, the common denominator will be 8. The next step is to divide. 8 divided by 4 is 2, times it by the numerator. That's 6. 8 divided by 8 is 1, times the numerator is 3. Now that these two are the same, I can just go ahead and subtract 6 minus 3 is 3, and bring down your denominator is 8. 1 minus 1 is 0. So we had just figured out the pattern. The pattern is the rule is to add. The pattern is to add by 3/8. Now we noticed that the third week they gave us, it was 2 1/8. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to solve for it fourth week. I start with 2 1/8. And I know I have to add because we solved the rule. It's add plus 3/8. Oh, this one's nice because this one actually has the same denominator and we can just add as usual. So I'm going to bring down this 2 is the whole number, 2. Add 1 plus 3 is 4. Bring down the 8. We're not done. We need to simplify that, and we're going to bring this over. And to like equivalent fractions, we divide top and the bottom of the same number. I can divide 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 8 divided by 4 is 2. So the next value, fourth week, Zach watered his garden. He watered it 2 1/2 gallon. That's not our final answer because we still have to figure out what the fifth week is. So we figured out fourth week, now we're on to the fifth week. Fifth week, we're just going to repeat. I'm going to bring this, which is this, 2 1/2. Remember, we're adding plus 3/8. Here we can't just add because the denominators are not the same. We have to figure out what is the common denominator, least common denominator. And I will say to myself, can 8 divide by 2 evenly? In this case, yes, because 8 divided by 2 is 4. And so that is the least common denominator. 8 divided by 2 is 4, times 1 is 4. 8 divided by 8 is 1, times 3. And then we're going, now that our denominators are the same, we're just going to add 4 plus 3 is 7, and bring down our 2. So the answer to this problem is 2 7/8. If you look at the choices for the problem, it gives us A is 2 1/2 gallons, B 2 7/8, C 3 1/4, or D 6 7/8. And since we solved the answer, 2 7/8, the answer is B. I hope you enjoy that math lesson with me. Good luck.